are you ready?
We're recording.
I feel like I don't need the gavel tonight, but this meeting, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining us. Temporary location, the emergency exit is on that side of the room. If everyone would please rise and join me for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Giller.
I'm here.
Mr. Jackson. Excuse. Mrs. Snyder. Here. Mrs. Gendron.
Here.
Ms. Paradis.
Here.
Mr. Giroux.
Here.
Mrs. Carey.
Here. Thank you, Mrs. Ramsey. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent O'Shea for the district report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your flexibility in joining us this evening. To start off the evening, I have Jeff Huda, our athletic director. He's going to share a few updates. I asked him here to speak in particular to our wrestling program. We received word from our elite that they did not want to include us in the merger, and Jeff can explain the rationale as well as some of the things he's going to be looking into and has looked into, and then also talk about other parts of the program and be available to answer any questions.
Good evening. As expected, I expected Water League to not want to renew the merger for wrestling. It's common sense. We would do the same thing in their situation. So, like sectionals, you have classifications, right? So there's Division I wrestling, there's Division II wrestling. Our numbers merged with them, and they're merged with Heatley, put them into Division I, which is now their wrestlers are wrestling against the Division I wrestlers. It's just not a good situation for them, as their numbers aren't huge either. We're only giving them one to two athletes for their wrestling program, so it's really not worth it for them to continue the merger. And I totally expected it. Once we found out last year that the numbers put us over to Division I, it was just a matter of time, and they reached out.
Mr. Hino, can you just clarify the numbers that you're talking about? We're not talking
The
about
beds,
athletes.
beds numbers.
Right.
So
Yes.
enrollments for the school district.
Right, so no matter if we give them one student athlete or 20, it's still, your beds number still count towards the equation to figure out what classification your school would be. That puts an end to the merger with Water Elite. Next steps, in the time frame that this started to happen in this fall or in the spring, I was talking to a community member who's a father in the district. Son's younger, probably like 4th, 5th grade, but started talking to me a little bit about wrestling. He was a wrestler in high school with another school, and about starting a Pee Wee program. So we've been conversing for a couple months via email and text messages about potentially starting a Pee Wee program that he would like to be involved in. He thinks he has around 20 kids that would be interested in it, because he's heavily involved in Little League and Pop Warner football. So I'm going to continue the conversation with him. Whether he's going to look to become a coach in a district, I'm not sure, but at least be involved in a Pee Wee program, which for those of you who know wrestling, Pee Wee program is so important for your wrestling program, because there's not really any feeder programs for wrestling. So that's kind of where we'll look to go, is to bring it back to Cohoes, see if we can get into the colonial schedule for wrestling, and see if we can start to recruit some athletes to wrestle. I know that we had a parent here last year talking about wrestling, so we have some parents that I think are interested in helping to build the program a little bit. We had a little bit of interest in the lower levels. One of the modified players is now going to be at the high school. That increases us by one as far as the varsity, but who knows, maybe we'll be able to get some more wrestlers, and at least be able to do something this year where we field a team, or we're able to go to invitationals and maybe jump into some league schedule somewhere where we get to send our wrestler to a couple matches. Those are all things that I have to look into and talk to the league scheduler about. can you add us into the schedule now, possibly with the hopes of being able to field a team. So that's kind of where we are with the wrestling program.
So just to reiterate a little, we will be looking for an internal coach, hoping to build our program, doing some, more intense recruiting of students while looking into building the earlier type program.
That would be huge if we could get some type of Pee Wee program going. And having somebody interested in it and being involved in it and running it is even bigger, you know.
So Jeff, how many kids do you need to have a varsity squad?
So,
Minimal?
I mean, you need quite a few wrestlers for the weights. But you can field them. This is what we were doing our last couple of years, hanging on.
Right.
You know, I think our last year that we had wrestling, we had 4 wrestlers. So we're not winning any matches ever, but at least those kids were able to win matches in the league
Yeah.
and make it worthwhile to have a coach. The problem became too, like we had a 220-pound wrestler. The other 3 wrestlers were probably 120 pounds.
Right.
That kid had no one to practice against. I mean, he was sending them to Kirby wrestling just to get some work in. So it was kind of, that's why once the merger with Waterville came about, we knew we were losing a couple of kids and we were going to be down to 3 or 4 wrestlers. It was a great opportunity at that time to join forces with them, merge, give our kids that ability to be able to practice against other kids and then be part of a program.
Jeff, you said that that Waterville dropped us, but they were also merged with Heatley. Did they drop Heatley as well?
No, they're merged with Heatley for all sports.
Okay.
And that's been 2 years now.
I
So
think that's a standard, like that's ongoing and will be.
I just didn't know if there was an
they're
opportunity for us to merge with Heatley.
their athletic director actually was at Heatley. Now he's at Waterville running all the Waterville programs. Because they're not their numbers obviously are very small, so they don't really affect the beds numbers and put them up in any division. So, but obviously our numbers have grown quite a bit. So.
Have we let the impacted athletes know so they have the opportunity to look for other opportunities?
Not yet. We discussed that today about there's one varsity wrestler that wrestled varsity last year that I can reach out to the family and just give an update of where
You just don't want them to miss deadlines for if they want to move to a different sport or, whatever opportunities they can. Great, thanks.
So I'm confused, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Are we looking to have a program this year?
Yes.
Okay, so we will be posting for a coach and looking for a program for this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Modified in varsity would be my recommendation to post for both those positions and try to.
I think you already know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
I just would hate to see us turn away any kids that are interested. We're already finding it difficult to have participation numbers. I think wrestling is a phenomenal sport. I think it teaches both young men and women great skills and, a lot of, personal pieces that meet the Tiger way, and I just would really, really be disappointed if we moved away from having a wrestling program.
Yeah, no, there's no intention to. Obviously, the participation will dictate that, and more conversations with the superintendent and yourselves. But no, we would like to. In a perfect world, we'd love to field a team.
Okay.
In any sport.
Now, with that being said, have we looked at our budget to see what impact, if that potential could come to fruition, that would make? Because I'm assuming that merging with a district and having our own program are gonna be pretty different as far as what budgetary impacts, will be made.
Yes, because Waterville kind of picked up the bill for most of everything because we weren't giving them many athletes. And I'm pretty sure it's a budgeted item, right, for wrestling already, because it's in the contract and all that. So I think the coaching staff is already budgeted for, and I don't think travel would be that anything that would be a huge impact to us for the amount of matches that we have.
Jeff, I do have one other question, speaking to that, something Margaret just said about boys and girls. If we have a wrestling program, is it co-ed, or would we need to have a separate boys team and girls team?
You can do both.
Okay.
You can have a co-ed, or you can have there's a lot of schools that have a girls wrestling team now. Not a ton, but there are some out there. And then there's some things that they can do, declaring for the tournament that they're gonna play in, because that just started with women's wrestling tournament too last year.
So would we post for a co-ed to have a co-ed team, or would we?
I don't think we would post I would think we would just post for wrestling and those interested, any female that's interested, just like we did prior to the female wrestling becoming a thing. We still had female wrestlers on the team.
So since you have Jeff this evening, I wanted him to also share with you an update from his perspective on the athletic field and how that's going, and then any other questions. I think before we get there though, do you have some numbers as we head into the
Yeah, I know, one of the things that we always talk about are participation numbers, and if you don't mind me reaching into my phone, I have the numbers for us.
Nobody could print before the board meeting because of the internet.
So, varsity football, we have 34 athletes signed up right now, and we still have another week before it closes. Boys JV soccer, that's JV varsity, it's combined, there's 31. 31 for girls JV varsity soccer, which is really good, because JV girls soccer is usually a sport at our size school that in our league, we'll probably lose 3 to 4 teams around the league that can't field a JV girls team. So those are really good numbers on our end. Volleyball, JV girls varsity volleyball is 19, so those are good numbers. Cross country is a sport we did not run last year. We have 1 varsity athlete signed up, we have 1 modified, but we recommended Karen Sensor for the position of cross country. She has been doing open runs on Wednesdays, and she's had 3 other student athletes running with them. They just haven't signed up yet, so she's pushing them along to get signed up, and we'll do some more recruiting on that end. Game day cheerleading is good with 12. A lot of younger middle school athletes looking to partake in game day cheer, which we can do, because it's not as competitive as with the doubles and things like that. Modified football is at 16, which is a good number at this point because they still have 2 more weeks before their deadline's up. And we owe, for middle school, especially modified football, we always get late. We say deadline because we want the kids signed up, we want them approved so they can participate the first day. But some of these sports, first week, yeah, you want to play? Let's go, and we get them right in there. The varsity numbers are 31, but that includes the 9th graders. So we play modified football 7, 8, 9 because we don't have JV, and then we play varsity 10, 11, 12 for the most part. But we always want to take a look at the 9th graders that first week. Give them 5 days of practice because we don't want to put a kid who's really good, really strong at the 7, 8, 9 level where you potentially could hurt another one of our athletes or from another school. Boys modified soccer is good at 15. Girls modified soccer is at 8 right now. That's low, but it's not bad for this time. They still have probably 3 weeks before their registration's up. Girls modified volleyball, there's 21. So they'll probably be cuts at that level. And then boys and girls modified cross country is 1 so far.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
So some of the feedback, just in passing with some folks, is that the sign-up process is online and kids need to rely on parents to make that happen. Is there anything that we do or try to assist so people that aren't really tech savvy and or allow students to sign up without, waiting for that to happen? So I guess some of the feedback I heard was, well, there's a bunch of kids interested but haven't signed up yet, trying to get mom and dad away from work to do the things. That it's a little difficult sometimes when you have to rely on solely that. We used to have the sign-up sheet and you'd sign up and then go through the process of getting the physical and all the paperwork, and I know that this is a lot easier and it makes it, more convenient to track and all the things.
Sure.
I get it completely. But if we are in a situation where we have athletes who are interested, instead of losing them, do we have anything in place that would, be able to have them included even though they haven't gone through the family ID sign-up process?
Yeah, so we'll never turn a kid away from not being able to register. I've walked 3 grandmothers through the process this summer on the phone, 10-minute conversation, all right, click this next, click, and we've got them signed up, no problem. There are ways where a student can come to us, myself or the nurse could add their registration, but we do need that medical information and that sign off. So no matter what, the parent has to be involved.
Yes.
So if it's paper or if it's the online, they still need all the same information. So they have to be involved somewhat, somehow.
So if I were to hear of someone, I could just say, contact Mr.
Yeah,
Bruno.
Yeah, we could have, Patricia Scott is doing the summer family ID hours. So she could literally get on the phone with a parent and go through the process, and they have an option where they can add their registration for them, and then it'll send the parents an email, and then hopefully they sign up that way.
Okay.
But yeah, most schools that I know now we were one of the first to go to family ID, and everyone I know has family ID now. So it's important. It's just great information, as you said, for the
Sure.
coaches
Yeah.
to have. I remember having an incident on a football game. Kid, took a pretty good shot to the head, and the ambulance was out in the field, and I went out. The coach was frantic. I had pulled his information right up. Hey, he's going to Albany Med. That's where Mom wants him to go. So those are really important things. But yes, and one of the things came up too with our students from different languages. There's options. I went over with a couple of the middle school teachers who work with those students. There is an option to change the language on their page to make it, so that they can have their native language. And then again, if we need to get with them in school and go sit down with them and go through, we would always do that. But yeah,
Do we still have physical physicals with the doctor hours?
yeah, we had one last Thursday, and then we have another one tomorrow.
Good to know.
Yeah, 10
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Field, the field is, obviously very exciting for everyone. It's, you look at it and you're like, no way, this is gonna take another year to get this done, but just watching them the last couple of days, and I see a couple of the workers out there, and I saw the landscape architect, Tim going apart, he's like, no, they're doing really well. And I think they're starting stage fencing already, so yeah, it's gonna be very, very exciting. And I think turf is being laid next week, so that's gonna be quite the scene to see the Tiger go down in the middle of the 50-yard line, so yeah, we're really excited.
I was up there last night walking the dog. Pretty impressive, yeah. It's really big. Yeah.
And they
The
paved
track looks really big, the infield looks really big.
they paved the track, so now
Yeah,
you're
that
starting
was
to really see it all come together, so.
What's the time, and are they still scheduled to be on, I know they might be a little later, what's the schedule right now?
The last one we talked about was September 20th was the first home football game, it was gonna be in our hands for that game. It
Right.
seemed, in talking, but you would probably know a little better, but that, we were looking towards that.
So I'm gonna talk to you about Sundays, I know Sundays are pretty empty at the high school.
Yep.
Because obviously, Pop Warner football, we have the most kids ever this year, 3 tackle teams, they play on Sunday. Usually we play on the side field, but that's just, I have your number, but that's a conversation I like to have.
Sure. And those will be the things that we have to work out too as a district.
Yeah.
Now we have a turf field, you're gonna have,
Yeah,
obviously that's a community group that meets our criteria, but what about the outside groups that don't meet our criteria or looking for a place to rent? That's an important field, you don't wanna, we don't rent our gym out to anyone but our community people because AAU just destroys gyms. So those are obviously things, when we get there, we're gonna wanna talk about.
Do you have a plan in place for the soccer games that'll start before the 20th?
Yes, we're looking to rent fields for the varsity games. We'll play our modified and JV games up on the backfield, and then I've been working with the city about Lansing's to play a couple of modified games there. I think it's just 2 games that will be affected if the time frame is good, and then it's 6 varsity games. So a rental would be the best case for us, because you can't just flip them to the other site. Oh, we're supposed to be home, but because the other team is playing, right, boys and girls,
Right.
they play opposite times. And then you can't just move them all, let's just play Thursday at 4:30, because officials are so scarce that they just can't cover games. So, yeah,
So there'll be communication going out about the capital project along with a really cool drone video that was done by CSR by the end of the week. So. Great, thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Problem.
You don't have to spend.
Okay. I'm just gonna listen to people in the room.
Thank you. So, since we're on a roll about fields and facilities, why don't we switch this up a little bit? We have our school business official who is very involved in facilities, they'll hear a little bit more on facilities and then a few other things.
So I'll go location by location and just really hit the highlights. I think we sent out on the weekly update a pretty detailed list, but I have some updates since that communication. So the fire alarm is still an issue at the high school. It was going to be resolved today, then we had a little mishap. Not such a little, but we had a mishap.
Can I just ask about the fire alarm, like how long has that issue been going on?
2 weeks, 2 solid weeks, yes. So there were 4 errors on the panel. The first was an old error that we had addressed, but it was still appearing on the board and needed to be cleared on JCI to do that. So that was the head that was located outside of the kitchen. And that was our problem last year when the kids had to go outside a couple of times.
Right, yeah.
So that the head had been replaced, it's just the error was still appearing on the panel. So JCI cleared that error. There was another error for a CO in the basement, which the error was tested. Sometimes when the basement is damp, you'll get bad readings, so that was tested and cleared. There was a third that was a ground fault error on the board, and that is the one that's been lingering for the last 2 weeks, and we had to have the electrical contractor come in and trace what that exact issue was. And they had to test 55 different heads, and they finally had finished that today, but then we had a different issue, which now has impacted the fire alarm, the power of the fire alarm. And then the fourth one, there was a head on the 3rd floor in the D wing. And so what had happened was when the fire alarm had gone, it started while I was on vacation actually.
Okay.
And when the fire alarm went off, the company came in and cleared it, and so the heads weren't lit up, and so maintenance didn't know exactly where the issue was. They knew it was on the 3rd floor in the D wing, but they didn't know exactly what the issue was. So then we went offline, meaning that the fire alarm will still go off physically. You could hear it if there was an issue, but it wouldn't notify the fire department immediately, automatically. So we had to put some folks on fire watch, so we had to have folks come in and man the building 24/7, which is obviously very taxing on our staff. But if we're getting false alarms, that's taxing on our community resources.
Which was my next question about how many false alarms does the community allow
Right.
to
So,
have before you start getting charged?
so as soon as I came back, we had a meeting.
Okay,
I was involved with the meeting, and we took it offline and we put fire watch on it, and we asked the contractor to make it a priority. The ground fault was not triggering the alarm though. So there are 4 issues on the panel, but 3 of them were triggering the alarm, the ground fault was not. So initially, the priority was to find the head on the 3rd floor D wing and address that. So that was our initial. However, the alarm went off at the middle school because the elevator was over the capacity and a contractor got stuck on the elevator, and so the company was called in to address that issue. And then the very next day, the work was being done on the first floor outside of the auditorium, and the contractor set off the fire alarm, and the fire company had it at that time only. And so they then told us, you're going offline and you're gonna put somebody in fire watch until all of the errors are cleared. And so then we had another meeting, we called everybody in, and we said, okay, we're gonna put people on, how much time do you need to address the issue? They told us through today, so we manned that 24/7. This is all on the custodial staff. It's been extremely taxing on our people.
Obviously, it's extremely taxing on all of our people. How responsive, I know I don't wanna say like whose fault is it? Where's it coming from? Clearly the excavator that cut a line today, it was his fault.
Correct.
But this is ridiculous. 2 weeks worth of is she responsible? Is Turner responsible? How responsive have they been? Because as up to now, I'm not impressed.
Understood. So the fire alarms are outdated.
Uh-huh.
There is some water damage that was identified, which is impacting the wiring for the fire alarm, so we found that. The last two calls were definitely construction related. The elevator being oversized capacity of the fire head outside of the auditorium. The 4 errors, not necessarily, we can't say for sure that they're construction.
Okay.
But I will tell you that the staff is aggravated.
Could I mention?
We're working collaboratively together, and Turner is very responsive to
Yeah,
us, and
we,
she has been also.
We called an emergency
Right.
meeting, had them come over, that was the last meeting that was referenced, and they understand the importance of it, and, they have been receptive, so.
People don't understand the importance of it until it affects their bottom line and their dollar. So that's where my concern is that, and especially even delays of the project going further and further. I had concern when somebody puts a bid in on one of the projects but says, no, we can't start it because we don't have the staff to manpower it. Well, then we should be going back out to bid. So that's where certain things, it shouldn't be costing us or our taxpayers, because the fire department is being called to the high school 3-4 times a day. So it's, and unless you hold somebody's hand to the fire, they're never gonna do anything.
So that was the first time we met, the community resource was the very
Absolutely,
first that
yeah.
we brought up. Again, it wasn't causing, the remaining error wasn't causing the fire alarm to go off at that time.
Gotcha.
And then we had 2 unfortunate situations where the construction did cause the alarm to go off. And that was the critical one.
And the fact that our staff has to man someplace 24/7 is beyond taxing on people who already are doing a job that they're doing.
Absolutely.
I know you appreciate it. I'm not,
Yeah, we all.
I know
we
you
all
do, you both do,
appreciate
and I know I'm talking to the choir, but I'm just gonna voice my frustration with the fact that I'm not impressed.
It's not necessarily, talking to the choir, there is a level of expectation for
Yeah.
contracts that we agreed to and timelines that we agreed to. When those are not
Exactly.
met, then there obviously needs to be, further investigation as to root cause and or parties involved. I mean, for our staff to have to be working double shifts every single day,
Yeah.
I mean, it not only is it an expense to us to, you know, provide this overtime, but, you know, asking them, summer is a very difficult time as it stands.
Yeah, they have kids at home
And then asking
and-
in addition to literally just come and sit at the it's just very difficult for us to sustain, and I don't see, you know, it sounds like we don't even know what the time frame is at this point, because today was the time frame, right? Or Friday was the time frame.
Today was the time frame,
Yeah.
they had identified the last remaining, I know they checked 55 heads, so they've gone from 55 on Monday to a resolution today, and then the excavation issue occurred, which now is a problem for the electrical, that the fire alarm panel. There's basically, it's running on battery, like a battery backup right now, so that's a different issue, but they had identified what they needed to identify today.
Yeah.
And we had told them that we would ban until today, and I was extremely adamant about it was today, and that's it.
And you were very happy when you heard the news that it
I
would
was
be done,
very happy.
and then the next email was about the excavation.
So,
Well, it's 3 weeks from today, there's gonna be kids in the school, so.
absolutely.
And not that the staff that's there isn't as important, but there's gonna be a lot of kids in
Well,
the school.
there's been summer school also.
Well, summer, yeah, there's been kids in the school
Yeah.
the whole time.
So we're comfortable with the battery backup being sufficient enough to,
They're doing an emergency care right now, that's why we're here, that's why we're here to change locations. They're doing an emergency repair, and they just shut down the electrical to the high school, and they estimated a 1 to 4 hour time frame to do the repair, and people on fire alarms all night tonight. So
Hopefully
that's,
tonight will be the last night.
correct.
okay.
So it was just basically a 1-day delay over the prior deadline. Hopefully.
And once
As
all
long
this,
as all goes well
Right.
with the repair right now. So that's our next thing that we're waiting for.
So, and the excavator, are lines not marked?
By doing that safety investigation, it was, they should have been marked.
Thank you, that's what I wanted to hear.
Turner is heading the safety investigation.
so right now, we're offline, so that if,
We are on
Right.
fire.
so how long after everything's resolved before we go back
I expect to be online tomorrow.
Stacy, since it was mentioned about some jobs potentially not being done and being postponed a little bit earlier, can you start with the Abram Lansing news about the painting that was going to be postponed but is now happening?
So a little good news?
Start with Lansing, then work around.
The exterior of Lansing, has started this week.
Oh.
So that's good news. It was originally postponed and then they showed up to prep the building.
Were we prepared for them to come and prep the building?
We had prepared at the end of June, we had, the tree limb removal and we had done all the weed whacking, as soon as school went out. And we communicated that we wouldn't redo any of that.
Okay,
Yes.
so yes.
Internally, the potholes, over, there's some at Lansing, and then there's some at Harmony Hill and that on Hickey Way, so the guys started that, today, they had started that in the spring, and then,
There's a delay.
things happened, and then we got back to it, today,
So
that's good
who's
news.
doing that work? Cause we had talked about contracting that out.
We're doing it
Department of
internally,
Resources.
Clive, our groundskeeper, was, leading that project,
Okay.
and our summer staff was helping.
Stacey, the damage that's done to that way at the high school that egress digress area leading into the track that has become very,
Oh, yeah, that's gonna
Cumbersome.
be paved, but not until next summer.
oh,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to, I
That's
just
gotta
don't
We're gonna have to do
that's really,
repairs.
really
Yes.
bad, yeah.
That was bad before.
The major paving is scheduled for next summer, but, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can hold the contractors kind of, but it probably happens everywhere with those big trucks, but that was the last week, it's really.
It wasn't great before.
Yeah, but now
Contracting, or
it's, you're losing
construction
small
started.
children in there.
Yeah. Small families.
Not my family,
No.
but small family.
Well, like that, we will probably have to outsource it, I don't, well, be able to do that.
Sorry for the clear impact.
Vince Skype, internally, we did some tree removal in the back, so that's done. The nurse's office was painted, that was internally, that's done. The gate, there's a gap in the gate that was identified, so that's been ordered, it's been built, it needs to be installed. We found it before school starts. The playground benches were ordered for Harmony and Vince Skype. For Harmony, the locker room renovations are going well. They're on task. The change order for Harmony Hill has been a little back and forth with that. For the playground, there's rocks there. Everybody agrees it's a health and safety issue. They want them gone. There's been some back and forth. There was originally a change order to pave it. Then there was some second guessing because there's some pooling and there's concerns about drainage, but the O&M team is adamant about paving and not mulch because mulch would be messy and it's gonna be problematic for snow removal, so they wanna talk more about that, so that's to be determined.
Who's in discussions for doing that?
So we had originally brought it to Oak, so the architects and Turner and Joe. And then everybody was happy originally with the paving solution, but then with the water pooling, Joe had asked us to revisit that. And so mulch was the easiest, so the quickest solution to that, but I met with grounds and maintenance on Tuesday, and they weren't satisfied with that, so they asked me to bring it back to Oak and have a bigger discussion. I already talked about the benches for there. The middle school is our, the most activity as far as internal inside for construction. So they're replacing the hot water tank, that's this week. The science rooms are all on schedule, so that's great. We're doing the third floor, second floor, and first floor. They will be finished in that order, so that's exciting. They're staging furniture in the building now. They've been doing the library past the river, and actually they're supposed to paint the ceiling this week, so that's good, because originally they said they wouldn't be able to do that, so they asked me to pick a color this morning, so hopefully that's being done.
Did you go with purple?
I said match as is.
Yeah, right.
There's a leak outside the gym that's brought to O&M, but it's a problem every rainstorm, so we're trying to figure out how to address that, so it's something we're working on. There's an open doors event happening, so the cleaners, that's been the, how shall I say? The biggest challenge for our cleaning staff this summer has definitely been the middle school. So we've offered OT, we've had some of our staff go volunteer from other buildings to go over and to help the staff out. And we focused a lot of the summer helpers initiatives over there, getting rid of the old furniture and helping clear it out over there. So a lot of TLC to that team. It's been a rough summer.
What's the open doors event?
It's 26th,
So we had, James Rizzo go over this past weekend, do the floors, get them up, and Buck Park come down too, so, it's been great, and then some help went over there. The old shop room, they deconstructed the old makeshift, work tables that were lockers, and then a big, building block on top, so that was all deconstructed, taken to the dump, and then they used some existing tables and they had moved that into this space, so that was a big project for them. All this didn't have water, so they've been creative, and for the cleaning crew, definitely deserves some gold stars.
Yeah, definitely.
They cleaned the roof drains over there, before the last torrential, because we've had a couple of leaks. Lansing and middle school are problem areas for when it's torrential rains. So maintenance did that. And then we did order a lot of furniture, for that building too, using our ARP money. For the high school, they're doing the power washing in the front, so it's looking really good, so that's exciting. They've done the roof work, so that's wrapping up, all that work is wrapping up, so that was a couple of weeks. So the track is progressing, so that's good news. We do need to do a walk through the architect team, for the JV field, but we have lots of time for that, but there's talk about, fencing over there and making sure we get things right, so we're gonna do a walk through over there. And then, we're also gonna investigate with the fire alarm and the water damage. So the back of the building, you'll remember, made an insurance claim last year, and there was like a river in the back. And so water penetrated, and there was 4 boxes that are all fire alarm. So, those boxes are being replaced. So we need to find a solution, so that water doesn't
Get there again.
forward, yeah. So that's part of the discussion. Teacher desks were ordered for the high school, so hopefully staff will be very pleased, hopefully they're here when they get here.
Did we ever find out what the product was that had to be removed under the old track? Like, was it the cheaper version of getting rid of it, or the more expensive version of getting rid of it? Remember they were doing the sampling?
Yeah, we have test results. I don't know, I'll have to look at that paperwork, I don't remember what it wasn't asbestos or anything like that.
Right, because then they were able to put in the new track within time and it wasn't a big delay and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
So they've taken it off, it's on the property, and there's tarps over it right now, and then the goal is it's gonna go to a landfill. We only had a partial number for how much that cost, we didn't have the full number yet, so I can't totally answer the question.
So after our Wednesday meeting,
Yeah.
we can provide an update, we can ask and provide.
We only had a partial for the change order and this group what's been done so far, so take it out, put it in the parking lot, put the tarp over it.
Hopefully it's something that when you Google, you won't
Yeah, it's not toxic, so that's good.
yeah.
The floors were done at the high school, so they did the old gym and the new gym. We did have some back and forth and they had to go back, we weren't really 100% pleased with that. But we need to make sure people are easy to keep and markers on our floors, and so next year we're gonna need to go down to the raw wood in alumni gym. You have to do that every few years, it's been a number of years, so we just need to plan to do that. And then the stage was done as well. Again, we're 100% satisfied, they had to come back, they had to touch it up. The curtains are down, they're ordered, they won't be back up until the end of September. But all progress, all looking forward to that. JCI, we've had a lot of issues with the chillers, that's particularly in our server rooms this summer. And JCI has been short-staffed as well, they were in today working on that issue That's it? Just, no, just finish up. All of the fire alarms are delayed, the projects are delayed, but they said originally late winter and they've backed them up October. So we're very happy with that from January to October, so that's good news. And Jeff already talked about that he was gonna need space for soccer games in September. The director of facilities, so I screened a few candidates this week, and then I have one screen on Monday. And then we'll have interviews in the next couple of weeks, and so we'll be a committee, so we'll look for folks to volunteer to be on the committee. So I'll be reaching out and see who's going to be interested in that. What's the timeline for appointment on that?
Well, it depends on how the interviews go and who accepts, so we're hoping before the 28th, but if not. So this is civil service, so we have to interview the top 3 and then offer. And then if somebody does not accept, we can then go lower on the list if we feel that we need to. So that's why we can't give you, just really depends on the outcome of the interview, because we've done this in other positions where we have the 3, we offer our top, they say no, and then if we're not happy, we go further. So we're hoping very soon because our facilities director is wonderful.
Our interim director?
Right, current interim director, but she's a whole other world to work in, so.
We have like grounds opening, so I hope to interview for that next week. District treasurer interviews were earlier this week, and then finals will be at the end of this week, and that one will definitely be on the H-28 agenda. I did need to move the audit, it was supposed to be this week, I think. I had to move it to the week of September 9th. I did send out an email to the audit committee, so we're looking to meet 10/23, but if it's not ready, then it would be 11/6, so I just need to make sure that I have 2 out of the 3 of you available at least, and then I'll send it to the auditors to confirm.
Stacey, would it be better for you for us to work with the 11/6 date and see who can make that versus the 10/23?
Probably.
So if you look at that 11/6 date in your email, and if that works, I just don't want you to have to.
I'm in, Stace.
You're in?
I'm in.
Woo.
I'm gonna say I'm in. That's a tough week for me, so I may get pulled out of town, but
You hope to be in?
yes, I hope to be in, yes.
I'm not in. I'm on the committee.
I can be there.
You have? Alright, so then I'll send that to the auditors and they'll be very pleased. I have an update on the tax rate, which is actually something that
Oh, good.
you're used to hearing from me. So the estimated tax rate, it'll be finalized in the next week or 2, is 38.30, which is better than what we had discussed on the budget, which was 38.41. So we're happy that it's lower than we had. It's good news. Happy to share good.
Yes.
Yes, keep it coming.
Okay, and then, let me see, I barely read my handwriting. Annual training, so we're having annual training for all the O&M team, and Tim Murphy's gonna lead that on Friday. So that'll be all of their lockout, tag out, lifting and bloodborne pathogens, et cetera. Talk them up and make sure they feel
very appreciated for surviving the summer of 2024.
So Tim Murphy is our safety specialist through Cat Region BOCES. He's with us one day a week, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm there in the morning to thank everyone because they have all done.
You're gonna feed them.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
thank
We
you.
are.
Yeah, lunch.
Get them
They are,
dessert.
yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
The amount of the work that was done internally on that list is
It's
really
unbelievable,
impressive.
but fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything else, Stace? That was enough, so.
Thank you.
So on August 28th, we'll be giving you a tech update, but I just wanted to let you know, so PJ gave the update with administrators today, and we're in good shape in the tech world, so I'm comfortable sharing with you on the 28th, on August 28th. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about where we stand in terms of hiring, and Stacey already talked about the facilities director, so that doesn't have to be on my list. One concern, we have 3 open secretary positions at this point. 2 of them, the one at high school and middle school is the second office position, there's a 12-month and a 10-month, so there is someone in the office and in guidance, although we need the second position. Lansing is the only secretary, so there is a pool, there is not a list through civil service, so there is a pool and interviews are beginning, and so we're hopeful, but it is unfortunately we were at this point last year too, around this time.
So we're looking to appoint those conditionally based on if they pass the exam.
They'll be provisional,
Yeah.
they won't be probationary because there is no list. They're valid list and actually there's only a couple people remaining, so it's not a valid list and they already were not interested.
Did we talk to civil service about when they're gonna offer another exam? I guess my question, just is the difficulty in putting someone in that position and then having them learn the job roles and responsibilities only to find out that, we have got to hire someone else. And, we have had those situations before, not ideal, certainly not something that we can control, but I'm just hoping that we spoke to them about offering the exam sooner than later?
We haven't, but
Okay.
so that's a double-edged sword because we do have some people who have been in positions for a bit now who also have to take that test and that would upset them as well, but they meet, I believe it's next week, something, we definitely can discuss with Reagan. There's something we're looking into called New York State Helps as well. And it's only valid through December of this year, through Albany County. There's certain positions that you can ask for to have them not have to take the test. So we're actually going to be exploring that, and I can provide more information about it in my update. We're going to be exploring that with civil service too. It's for hard to fill positions and also to prevent the same issue you're talking about because we have some very strong people who are doing the job or who through an interview will do the job. So I'll share more information about that too. But that's a program that has been developed for that type of situation. So in terms of our teaching positions, so I have final interviews scheduled for the middle school social studies position. Harmony Hill, they have a really solid pool. Mark does for the 3rd and 4th grade position, so we're not concerned about that. So as I mentioned, we are concerned about our world language position. We still have an opening in Spanish at the middle school, although there is someone with some Spanish experience, not necessarily certification, but I am going to meet with that person. French, both at the middle school and the high school are vacant. So French at the high school, those are students in Hudson Valley credit courses. We have a worst case scenario model which would be asynchronous offering through HBCC. That is not something that we want to do. We just know, meaning that Hudson Valley Community College has developed modules that they have used with other students in districts, but it's not a virtual with a teacher, it's asynchronous. Knowing that, we are exploring virtual models with Capital Region BOCES. You know, in the past we had distance learning, et cetera. So this would be distance learning light, and I reached out to BOCES, also we have had candidates interested in a virtual model. That's something we would run through BOCES if we're able to do that, and that looks like a favorable possibility. This is if we do not and are not able to get an in person. At the high school, the number of Intro to French students is 18. French 1 is 22, French 2 is 15, and then French 3 and 4 is 10. That's the same group that take both. They take French 3, then take French 4. And again, I'll share this in the update. Our numbers at the middle school, so French 8 are 19 and 20. French 8, the students have already had French 7, which means when they complete French 8, they get credit, so that we are working through some different models of how we would be able to do that. French 7 is 14 and 11. So if we cannot find somebody, we could have conversations with 7th graders potentially about Spanish, as long as we have Spanish. But when we reached out to BOCES, we talked about both middle and high potentially if we can't find a teacher. We would have a strong teacher assistant in the room who is able to work with the students and with that virtual. It's not your COVID pandemic type of virtual, though we went to a session with a virtual Spanish teacher recently where she talked about how she makes it engaging. So we're exploring all areas while still hoping that over the next few weeks something might happen. French is a huge area of need throughout. So that's short term. Long term, we'll be talking with principals. Laura and I had this discussion briefly today. I know you mentioned something too about down the road, are there some other options we should be exploring, either in terms of languages or types of languages, things like that. So we're thinking both short and long term.
Question in regards to, are other districts of our size having this issue with foreign languages, or so it's not just us, it's across the
It's not
region?
just us, if you look on OWASP, there's a number of foreign language openings. One superintendent of a larger suburban school district was just interviewing somebody who lives in Indiana, virtually, it's difficult,
Well, the reason I mentioned American Sign Language is because I have actually heard of a couple of graduate students who that's what they took in college. And so, at some point you have to, again, reassess and think about relevance and where that falls in the world that we are in today. Just like we were doing with our clubs about, is this relevant? Do kids want to participate in it? If, it is that we're having such a difficulty finding a French teacher, I understand that we already have kids in that pathway, but it would be a good time to start exploring other options to maybe potentially find someone, even if it was part-time, to take our 7th grade and, incorporate a different offering. I don't like the idea of having just solely Spanish and no other offerings. I also am not a huge proponent of the distance learning, especially in the middle school. I just don't feel like that's a great support for kids of that age. I understand we're in a position that we have to find a solution, and I'm not opposed to finding a solution to meet a need. It's just not ideal, in my opinion.
And that's why I mentioned with the 8th grade, they already have had half the, credits, so for that group, that's something we will continue. For 7th, we're exploring, other potential possibilities. American Sign Language, if that is something that we ended up, looking into doing, that also, assists people, students who are thinking about being a special education teacher, so there's some other relevance for that as well. So to be continued, I just wanted to.
And not that you're not aware of that, when these classes are supposed to start in 3 weeks.
Oh, we're aware, we have been.
I'm just
We
expressing my
actually,
concern.
with the exception of world language, we are,
Don't
Yeah,
please,
don't say it.
please don't.
Don't say
Okay,
it.
thank you, 3 weeks you said?
3 weeks.
No,
3
3
weeks.
weeks.
Today, right? Are we starting on Wednesday or Thursday this year?
we're starting on the 5th, the 3rd and 4th are teachers, staff days, so I think the 5th is Thursday. I'm
So
not
it's
positive.
3 weeks and 1 day. We have 3 weeks and 1
I'm not
day.
positive, we're starting on the 5th. And other than that, I do wanna just, we also are in the process of filling our teacher assistant openings. And then in terms of the interim assistant superintendent position, we have 18 responses who are potentially interested in the position. Out of that, one does not have the correct certification, and 9 don't have although have the correct certification, 9 don't have the specific criteria as opposed to the posting, which means there are currently 8 candidates that meet the criteria, and I've been working through some screenings and then starting to set up some in-person interviews, and I can provide more information about that in the future as well. We did post today the secretary to the assistant superintendent position. As school gets knowing first, the 3 buildings are top priority, and we do not want to be competing. But felt that I needed to post that before we have someone in the role, so we can also find somebody for that position. And also, there are many systems in play that person in that position can do as directed by myself and others too. Any other staffing questions?
I mean, just at some point, I would love an update on, we had conversations about a Grow Your Own program and talking about how we can get kids who are attending our high school who might be interested in education, certified and or close to a TA cert by the time that they walk out the door. So not asking for that now, but I would love to see if we have made any progress in that area and or if that could be something that we kind of keep in the forefront as we're moving forward. Whether that be working in a position as a teacher, with a secretary, maybe it might be office staff. I mean, Grow Your Own could be pretty much anything if we're trying to support positions in our district.
I agree. We can plan that for maybe the second meeting in September. And I do want to let you know that it's through the city and program, but we have had students working in our summer success programs throughout the summer with our elementary students who then get paid through the city for their service. So, any other staffing questions?
So Peg, so the 8 candidates, are those all through BOCES? Or was it posted is it a blanket posting open to the public, or were those candidates just through, because I know you're gonna look at BOCES anyway, right?
The posting was open, it went out, and those are a combination of people who responded to the posting
Okay.
and other people who but not through BOCES.
Thanks,
It was
Mike.
through us, yeah. We have a lot to talk about in the exec session.
We do, okay.
So that's it, unless anyone has any other, oh, let me just talk to you about upcoming events. So I just wanted, and I shared an update August 20th, we have into reading training for elementary teachers. We have a significant number, we have a large number of teachers who are attending that session. And then kindergarten open doors are happening also. I know you mentioned middle school in the last, well, starting August 23rd at Harmony Hill. And then we have them through the August 29th. And then freshman orientation also is happening August 27th. And then on August 27th, that's our new professional orientation for all of our new staff. And then on August 28th, and it's going out tomorrow, is, and we talked about this, we have school tool / Schoology training for those who want to attend over the summer. And then we'll be offering the sessions during open staff day as well. So, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions on that piece? No? Thank you. Okay, any board discussion of agenda items? Agenda.
The only agenda item that I had brought up in our conversation is the fact that we are appointing a number of coaches right now, which is fantastic. I do have just a slight concern appointing an assistant coach and not a head coach in our football program. So I know that they're getting certifications and on their way to be doing that, but football will not start until after we reconvene again. Like they'll actually be starting before we reconvene again. So I just wanna say that I have a concern that we're not appointing a head coach at this time
So,
before practice starts.
understood, so, we have some open positions, but the football positions are not. We do have candidates, who will be able to be at the practice because the assistant coach, whomever we're appointing, has all the necessary certifications. We just can't appoint until the certifications are completed, and Jeff, Mr.
I
Huno.
feel like we had the same issue last year too.
Mr. Huno and Tara are working with the candidates to follow up and have them finish up. Usually, we have a late August offering through Top Form, which satisfies, I don't know specifically if it'll satisfy all the requirements. So Jeff's reaching out in terms of making sure they're able to do that. Another option could have been appointing everybody on August 28th. If that happened, we felt it was better to appoint now and then add the others in.
I think that actually what Margaret's point is getting to is that this is now the second year in a row that we're going through this without the head varsity coach for football having the certification to be able to be on the agenda, to be.
Well, I think my point is that if he is the one running practice and he is the one dictating what is happening at practice, and yet the assistant is the one who is certified and responsible and appointed by the board, that kind of just contradicts itself. And so again, just bringing up that I think there is an issue with that, and practice starts and we can't delay practice. We've got 31 kids that are signed up and ready to go. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is if this is where we are. It just makes me feel uncomfortable that the board hasn't appointed, someone who's actually gonna be running the program. And you're right.
I mean, my point is that this is now the second year in a row that we're going through this. And obviously, it's the same thing as, you know, money talks or money walks or whatever. It's like you get your certification done or you're not. And then we, as a board, have to nominate someone who does have their certification that can run practices and not put the pressure on the assistant.
So I think we're getting borderline into personnel. So we can table this part of the discussion and bring it into executive session.
Perfect.
Thank you. Any other discussion about agenda items? Any community discussion of agenda items? With that, can I please have a motion that the Board of Education adopts the following resolutions of the August 14th, 2024 agenda, items 6A through H, 7A through U, 9A, and 10A through C.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. I'll second that. Thank you.
Mrs. Giller,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Gendron, yes, Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. Gerose, yes, Mrs. Carey.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to just note and thank the donor of the piano that we will be using for musical performances at the middle school. So greatly appreciated, generosity. Any comments beyond that? Congratulations to the new appointees. Any comments from board members on items that are not on the agenda tonight?
One thing I just brought up, that was a discussion that we had, a community member had approached me about the flag at the middle school, stating, you know, the size of that pole, it does not represent the size of the flag that's on the pole. And so, you know, I did bring it up in our conversation. It was a request from a joint group of veterans, and, you know, seeing Veterans Day coming up in November, they would appreciate if we would consider purchasing a flag that justifies the size of that pole.
And I haven't had a chance to talk to Stacy yet after that, because she was a little busy with
A lot of things, yes.
But yeah, I will be following up, and Stacy and I will be discussing.
Thank you.
And that's
Did they
it.
recommend,
I could certainly
We
get you
can
some
certainly
information.
find out from
I
them because
actually-
they are very vocal.
I also talked with someone, so I don't have it in my head, but I have the perfect size of the flag for that flagpole.
Perfect.
I'm happy to make a picture of it.
Yeah.
There's usually three sizes. There's storm, post, and garrison.
And I have
So
a
it's probably gonna be
resident
a
expert
post.
on
There you
the
go.
topic tomorrow as well.
Thank you for that.
Those are the normal sizes. There might be others beyond that.
Team player. So, updates TBD on that? Great. Questions and comments from the audience on anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Alright.
I have some really quick insight in here.
Sure.
Is that special education, it always seems like there's a waterfall of kids pouring in the summer, and there is, but there have been kids leaving as well this summer. So we may end up with a relative balance, and we got some really great new people coming in that was on there.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you very much. Budget neutral and quality staff. It's a great update, Erin. Thank you. The policy review on tonight's agenda was 8130.2, the workplace violence prevention policy. The name is being modified only, that's the only modification. Okay. Dates for future meetings, August 28th will not be in this room, no matter if there's power or not, thank you anyway. We're planning to meet at the high school in the LGI, and then September 11th at the location TBD based on Stacy's crew and all of their hard work. May I please have a motion to enter into executive session at 7:14 p.m. to discuss both the building level emergency response plan, the district technology disaster recovery plan, and the superintendent's evaluation.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Mrs. Giller,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Gendron?
Yes.
Mrs. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes? Mrs. Carey?
Yes, thank you. And we do not expect to reconvene for anything beyond adjournment. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.